Thank you. So welcome back to everyone online. Welcome back to everybody here. I know some people have to leave a little bit early, a couple of people. You're going to miss the best part. Okay, sorry. No, no, that's great. We have some questions I'm going to take in a moment, but Sylvie found a 1-minute video with some prayers in the background. And this was shortly after Lama Zopa Rinpoche passed. So we thought it would be interesting for you to see Rinpoche in the posture of how they often do this with great lamas or any being, and you position them upright to finish their meditation, and it's supposed to be a better conducive posture in the meditation posture. And so we're going to show just a minute of that. And wait, one moment before, I just thought, great place to think about our motivation. Next segment, next session, sorry. And just really think about, again, directing our mind and our awareness and our activities in a most beneficial way that will lead us to enlightenment quickly so we can benefit all living beings. Thank you. So you get another, that's a nice video, Richard Gere, about after Rinpoche. It's a pleasant video of his feeling. He had met Rinpoche many occasions, and hearing him talk about, you can watch that as well another time. You get a little sense of, and there are times when I see that video of Rinpoche and I felt similar to Anna. I want to say, Rinpoche, I've been many times in meetings with Rinpoche. Fortunately, I've had a lot of time with Rinpoche in this life. And so a lot of the time was in India and other countries, Nepal, but a lot of time in California when I lived there. Rinpoche had a house. The house is up for sale now, and it was near our centers. And so I would come over to things about the centers, or Rinpoche wanted to meet me about something. But I ended up, for some reason, in the 2 a.m. to 2 to 5 a.m. shift seemed to always be when I would end up there at the house all night. And so what happened is Rinpoche would manifest the aspect of dozing off. And I say manifest the aspect because a highly realized being like him, we would say, doesn't sleep. He didn't usually need to sleep, or he wouldn't have diabetes or high blood pressure or stroke, or he would manifest the aspect. He's really pure and clear, but because of the karma of the students, he would manifest a certain aspect that would be limited, like dozing off. So there were times when he would doze off and he would look like that a little bit. I mean, a different manifestation. And but he wasn't really on a big throne like that. He was just on a seat across on this table that he had, sometimes on his bed, and I'd be on the floor listening, and we'd be talking about something, and then he'd have the manifest. It was usually about the center, and then he would manifest this dozing and nodding off, falling asleep. I'm so sorry, falling asleep. He'd manifest sleeping, but just like this, similar to what I would do is, Rinpoche never rested. That it wasn't a word in his vocabulary. He would say, when you think about our language. So one time at a center, he came to our center leading a retreat, and I knew that his health wasn't showing that well. And Venerable Roger was saying about, giving Rinpoche a little bit of space at times because the students get so eager to meet and want to have appointments. And so then at one point, Rinpoche was giving me some advice of something we could build at the center. And then I thought this was a good opportunity, Rinpoche, to take a break. So I said, and then maybe Rinpoche can take a break. And Rinpoche then looked at me confused, this is typical Rinpoche. And then he said, break? And I said, yes, Rinpoche, maybe just, and he said, that word does not exist. It didn't exist for him. It exists a lot for me, but you just get an idea of this being that yesterday the video might have scared you a little bit of his urgency if you're not used to that, but his incredible love for us to just so desperate. He was so desperate to get us enlightened quickly and to get us out of our mess and our suffering and all the thousands of students that ask Rinpoche for advice and come with their stories and crying and depressions and oh my goodness, my partner left me, and he just would continually. So what I would do is when Rinpoche would manifest the sleeping, head would go, then I would very quietly try to get up the room and try to sneak out to let him have the time. And this would happen many times during this 3-hour period. And I would manifest, and there were Tibetan curtains hung from the doorways. It was just how they designed, decorated the house. So I would very quietly, I have my notebook, but really quietly, really stealth, and I just be managing to get out of the room. Literally one time my heel was at the back of the curtain. Like I had, my body was out of the room already, but the heel was still, and then Rinpoche would wake up, he'd say, yes, Amy, so, and then I'd be like, okay, I got, and sometimes I think I was trying to escape a job. So I was trying to run out of the room. And then I'd come back in and then I'd say, please, Rinpoche. And then he'd go into some other thing, and then it would happen again. This would go on sometimes for such so many funny stories of. So sometimes I came in and Rinpoche would do a divination using dice to discern something. Some people didn't agree with that or didn't understand what is happening. Called Mo. It's a type of Tibetan divination. I knew that for me and my experience it was all in Rinpoche's mind. He knew exactly what was happening, but he just used this device sometimes. And so sometimes I came in and might ask a question, simple question. And for 20 minutes, he'd be doing the dice to try to, and then he wouldn't say anything. So this happened many times. So one time I came in a meeting and I just really needed the answer to this for the center. Like I just couldn't, my mind's so limited. And so then at one point I said, with all due respect, Rinpoche, I guess I don't have the karma for Rinpoche to tell me directly the result of the Mo or the, and after that, Rinpoche was always very direct, just would tell me, boom, right? Like, I don't know, it was just funny the way he would manifest different things. I was so fortunate to have a really extraordinary relationship with a highly realized being. I hope that for all of you, if it's something that you want, because it's made all the difference in my spiritual life and my direction and my path. And it's been, I had wonderful parents. They gave me an incredible life. They did everything for me. But, or I would say, and in addition, to have a guru like that, and my other teachers that have incredibly, incredibly benefited my mind, helped me to work with my mind. So I can't say enough about it. So we're going to take some questions. And yeah, no problem, Lizette. Okay. We have some questions online. Okay, do we also perform POA in the Gelug tradition? We do. We do have POA. I got a teaching from that by Rinpoche. So we do have POA in our tradition, which is transference of consciousness. Transference of consciousness. You need instruction before you practice it. You need to practice it properly. It's one of our practices that you can actualize realization quickly. And so, but you're not doing it to commit suicide, to extract your consciousness prematurely, which is why you need proper instruction. However, if you do actualize POA and have an attainment where you start to get some fluid coming from your crown, or because you're doing these exercises to bring the consciousness up, and then you're kind of bringing it back down and up. And you can quickly have some experience. But once you have that kind of experience and kind of attain it, as they'd say, you have a commitment for the rest of your life that any being that's died, any animal that you pass over and step over, insect, animal that has died, you have to stop and do a POA practice for them right then. Or at least take that little carcass to your altar and then do the POA practice in, within the day generally. That's been one of the commitments that was told to me. So you have to think about, do you want that level of commitment? But it's quite a profound practice, and it's something that's used when somebody's just died, and if somebody's trained in it, they can make sure the consciousness will go to a good rebirth. You can also do it on yourself, but again, you have to be very careful and have to be well trained so that you're not doing it prematurely, causing a premature death. Okay, so Dragos, my dear, you understand correct, it's beneficial to meditate on the various visions of the Bardo during our Dharma practice sessions. What do you mean by the visions of the Bardo? Can you be a little bit more specific? Do you mean those internal visions I was talking about?
Yes, exactly. The internal visions.
So
Yes.
those aren't visions of the Bardo. So let's just correct our terminology. They're not visions of the Bardo. Those are the inner experiences that will happen during our death experience, active death. And it's also visions you can create by bringing the winds into the central channel in everyday life through higher level practice and completion stage practices of Tantra, once you're properly initiated. And those visions, we want to practice them in everyday life so we will recognize them as in our active death process. So yes, it's very beneficial to meditate on those daily. His Holiness says he does it 6 to 8 times a day because it comes in the highest yoga tantra practices. So I do it several times a day because it comes in my daily commitments to try to familiarize my mind with what will actually happen, that maybe I'll be able to recognize one of the visions like that.
Can I ask a question related to
Yes.
this? Is it proper to actually visualize the visions as I would imagine them, how they would look like if they would arise spontaneously? Because you're saying by bringing the energies inside, they would appear.
Right.
But
do they
as long as
appear?
that doesn't happen yet. Is it okay to try to visualize it?
We have to. We have to visualize what we can, because will they appear the way we visualize? Maybe not, but you have to try to actualize something. So I try to actualize what's been described to me. And it's obviously going to be slightly different, but I got that one little heads up from Rinpoche of the one red increase while the sunset was happening, and suddenly he just pointed out. And as a result, I'm thinking maybe when I die, that's a vision that I'll remember, that I'll flash on, because the way he said it was, it's like this, like it was one of these really strong, don't forget this. So that's always in my mind when I do that vision because of that, but we'll just do our best. Just do our best. Okay, can we experience some of these visions during our dreams? Yes, you can. And if so, should we contemplate any of these visions as we fall asleep? You certainly could. Absolutely. What's also helpful when you go to sleep, for more ordinary beings, I think it's very helpful to go to sleep with a motivation similar to this. Put it in your own words. I have to sleep for my health. For most people, we need some level of sleep. So I hope I can sleep well and wake up, and I hope I wake up, and I hope I wake up refreshed with nice energy to continue my Dharma practice as consciously as I can, mindfully as I can, so I can quickly get enlightened and work perfectly for all mother sentient beings, or to work for the benefit of all living beings. For that purpose, I'm going to practice the yoga of sleeping now. That's a nice virtuous meditation, motivation for sleeping. So sleeping's not just mundane and no motivation, no positive effect. Positive motivation, better result. So can we just go back to that question a little bit further up? Sorry. Okay, so then again, rather than doing the visions, you could do those, but you want to make sure, if you can, then next level practitioner, having that motivation is think about emptiness. So you go to sleep, think of whatever lack of concrete nature, your body, this sense of yourself you have, any meditation on emptiness could be really helpful. Obviously with highest yoga tantra, then you'd have slightly different visualizations. Yeah. And then Lizette has, thank you, Lizette. This is the link to The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, the book about the man with the locked-in syndrome who wrote the book about his experience. Is it okay? Okay. Okay to unplug someone in a coma from life support machines in a way that it wouldn't be considered killing. Okay, and then also in the Netherlands, I think the standard for someone dying, excuse me, we'll go into organ donation in a moment. Okay, and I'll read that question. So unplugging someone. So here's what happens in our tradition if somebody is on a ventilator and plugged into all kinds of things, as unfortunate was my mother in the end. There's a number of students I know have ended up like this. If they have the karma to have a close teacher they're connected to, it doesn't mean the person may be connected to them, but the family may be, that one of their kids is a student. So Rinpoche had a family of 3 of the students were committed to Rinpoche, and the family knew Rinpoche for years, the mother and father. Father was dying of a massive heart attack, was older, right? And then they advised, and he ended up on life support, keeping him alive. And then the children quickly contacted Rinpoche and said, what do we do? You know, what's the best thing to do in this situation? He's on life support. And then Rinpoche said, get the family together, get anyone who wants to be there together, wait till they arrive, then you can unplug him. And they did. He lived 24 more hours with the family there doing practices, and then he passed away. So that's one advice for one person. Another student in the area had, a younger man, had colon cancer, was dying, a student that I knew quite well. And the family asked Rinpoche. He knew Rinpoche personally, and Rinpoche, for some reason, whatever he saw in that man, he said to whatever happened to keep him alive as long as you possibly could. So if he needed life support, if he needed, and so he, you know, was slowly dying, and then to a point very terminal, and they tried to maintain as long as they could, and then he passed away. So it's very individual with life support of what's going on. And obviously with my mother, we included the medical team. What was their advice? We had a very close friend who was a doctor who was in attendance with her, gave us advice. We also tried through research, we tried things that might wake her up, clinical tests that they agreed to do, like that. And then I was fortunate enough, based on Rinpoche's proximity and a retreat was leading and where I was living. And I asked if Rinpoche could, on his drive down from Vermont in the very north of the northeast of the states, to Light of the Path retreat in North Carolina one year. I think that was 2010. It was the second year of Light of the Path. Could Rinpoche stop by the hospital to see my mother because they were going quite close? And Rinpoche did, and came for 3 hours. So for me, it was the best thing. If you have that karma, to have the guru come to do, and he brought, so he traveled with a suitcase of relics. These are holy pieces of bones or a hair or a tooth chip of holy beings. There used to be relic tours that I think came through Amsterdam, possibly in the Netherlands and Europe. So if you had the faith in these relics, but anyway, as a result, the suitcase came right into the hospital. So all these people got an indirect blessing of these relics. It was evening, it was 11 o'clock at night, and that's a time the hospitals are very inactive, quiet. Rinpoche knew exactly when to come, and my mother fortunately had her own room, so he'd go in the room, none of the nurses disturbed. I just said, my Buddhist priest is coming, is that okay? I didn't give them a lot of lead time, the nurses, because I didn't want any kind of, well, we need to check with the committee and the, you know, but all the Catholic priests came. So I was like, so they had no issue. And in the room, Rinpoche came and they just let him roll. Like there was no limitation. I remember he said to me in the beginning of the medicine Buddha Puja, he's on one side of my mother, I'm on the other side in the hospital bed. And suddenly Rinpoche stopped and he looks at me and he's like, how much time do we have? You know, because he wanted to know, to make sure he could finish what he wanted. And I said, however, so 3 hours. he went. And for me, it was incredible. He put a relic in her mouth and he blessing and everything, just incredible for me to have. So that I felt like at least, and then we would just roll with the medical community of what they felt based on what her body was telling us of whether we kept her. And we did keep her plugged in till the end because she was still, and then finally it seemed at the very end seemed to be clear that she wasn't going to recover like that. So the next thing in the Netherlands, is to be, the standard for someone dying is for them to be an organ donor by default. Is that how you do it in the Netherlands? How interesting. Well, this brings great merit to donate organs after death. This also can disturb the bardo experiences. What should we choose to mention in our will to be an organ donor or not? Because they have to extract the organs very quickly after the medical death occurs. Okay, so just Dragos, be clear what you're saying, the bardo experiences. You mean the death experience, not the bardo. The bardo is separate from your death experience. So
Yes.
in the Netherlands, if you don't want to be an organ donor,
You have to register.
you sign something.
If you don't register, they will consider you a donor.
A donor. Okay, how interesting. In the States, what you do is on your license, it used to be on your driving license, you would put a sticker on the license if you're going to be a donor. Otherwise, they assume you are not a donor in the
It's
States.
quite recent, yeah. Since
Okay.
a few years,
So
yeah.
that's interesting to make people active not to be a donor. And in the States, it's the opposite. You actively have to say, I want to donate. If you want to donate and you have a good motivation for it, you could give a lot of different people lives. It can be an amazing thing to do for highly realized meditators, for people really doing a lot of meditation. Anyway, you don't even need high realization. You may choose not to. And the reason is, as Dragos says, they have to harvest the organs very, very quickly before, and it could be before the consciousness leaves the body. So the consciousness will still leave, but it may a little bit interrupt that flow of it leaving through the best orifice or whatever, or there could be some confusion. And it's a personal decision. There's not a right or wrong in Buddhism like that. So a lot of the high lamas I know, none of them are organ donors, but they also die very old. So at that point, their organs are not really as useful. And it's a personal decision, but a number of meditators I know have opted not to donate organs. It's up to you. How did I get a chance?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Venerable Amy. And sorry for having my camera off today. I have to work and I'm listening to the teachings. And
No problem. You don't even need to say
Thank
that.
you. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you very much. Lovely to see you. Thank you for your questions. So Venerable, chance to assist the Sky Bros. Is it possible for everybody to do so? Does she have in mind a group trip to Tibet? So I didn't assist in the sky burial. I simply observed it. So again, I was a little bit surprised when we got to this Gompa. We didn't expect that. We were just going to be camping there, and then I was showing people that area, and we would look at the Gompa. And then we heard they had been a Gompa that does almost daily sky burials. And then our tour coordinator checked, and they said, yes, we could watch it. So we just walked up the hill after watching the POA ceremony, which you just observe. You don't like see them extract you don't see the consciousness extracted or anything, but you watch through prayers. They took the bodies up the hill, we followed, and then we watched for like an hour and a half. Maybe it was even done in an hour. It was very quick, but then we could observe those that wanted to watch. So I don't have a pilgrimage to Tibet planned at this point. It's very, very hard. A Tibetan pilgrimage is a very different story based on the Chinese government. I was supposed to lead the last one in 2008, and that was when the Olympics were hosted in Beijing. So there were a lot of protests from Tibetans and other people. And as a result, I was then instructed that I had to get a new passport where I didn't look like a nun in my passport photo, because the Chinese would never give me a visa. So then I had to deal with that in India and Delhi. And then we finally were told they were not giving visas to organized groups of blah, blah. And we changed our entire pilgrimage and didn't go to Tibet that year. So I don't know if somebody wants to organize something and you have a tour coordinator and you want to see what the latest thing is, I could certainly lead something there, because it is a fascinating, amazing place to go for Dharma practitioners. It gives the Tibetans a lot of hope, but I don't know the current situation in Tibet for pilgrimages and things like that. We could talk about it. But Maitreya Institute and myself, we're looking a little bit at a possibly Nepal, India pilgrimage for to take people on pilgrimage. And it's a really worthwhile way to visit these countries. We're not just snapping pictures, we're doing practice at these holy sites. And in India and Nepal, most of them are holy sites where the Buddha has lived and practiced, was born and died and got enlightened. So it's very momentous to walk in the footsteps of the Buddha and really be in these places. But to actually, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, to make offerings at these places, to do practice at these places, to meditate at these places. And usually I lead like a few day retreat there through 2 or 3 days. We read some of the holy things that were taught at that site. And it's a really nice experience. So sometimes I lead a pilgrimage to Laudo, this remote retreat center in Nepal near Mount Everest, where Lama Zopa Rinpoche has a holy cave, and where I've done a lot of retreat. And that's another beautiful place to lead some retreat and have people meditate there and see the area. So Rinpoche very much wanted me to lead people there and to teach and lead some retreats there, which I've done a couple times. And then the India-Nepal pilgrimage also is very worthwhile. So those are a couple of my favorite pilgrimages. So I would stay in touch with the center here and see. You could also stay in touch with my website. Lizette posted the link, and if there is something on there, there'll be a listing if I'm, the next thing I'll be leading.
Thank you, Venerable. I'll be interested. Very interested.
Okay, great.
You can go on your website and I
Yes.
check what you do, and I'll be in touch with Maitreya Institute as well, because I'm from Italy. So, but I'll be very interested.
Great. Yeah, and also on the website right now on the homepage is a slideshow about, I think it's it's a little bit long. It's 9 minutes of the walk to Laudo, and that walk hasn't changed that much. So you at least can see. For the people that want to do it, I'd like watch that so that they at least see what they're getting themselves into. It's a rigorous walk. The India-Nepal one will be a lot easier to move around. You're not going, the issue with Tibet as well, like Laudo, is you end up with altitude issues, because it's very, very high. You're at about 13,000 feet. And so we have to really acclimatize, and the Tibet one is hard because you end up flying in sometimes from Nepal, and it's a big jump in elevation from 5,000 feet to about 13,000. So you have to manage that with people that have high blood pressure and other issues like that, asthma, stuff like that. So we will see, but that's part of pilgrimage is for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I've done a lot of pilgrimage with him, and I'll put it this way, it is about enduring hardship, okay? Which he one time said is what he's most interested in his disciples. It's how they bear hardship. So we don't like that. We don't like hardship, but I have to say it's been tremendously transformative for my mind, because it also helps you purify. But it's really, part of our practice is that arduous journey to really transform the mind, and it really does work. So that's the kind of guru that he was. So not everybody likes that, and I've had other gurus that I was plowing away on the mountaintop in my retreats, and then we had a whole Dharma circuit of people studying, and I mentioned going to teachings and doing retreat, and then we would kind of come together at different times in between these things. And one of my friends was a little bit more aligned with another Lama, and then she did the retreat, and I was really tired, and that she was, and her Lama told her to go to the beach in Thailand, and that was not what Rinpoche told me to do. So I was kind of like, go to the beach in Thailand. Because she goes, oh, I'm off to Bangkok. I'm going, that's what he told me. And I'm like, how do I get those instructions? So again, based on your karma, but I have to say, I'm enormously grateful for being able to bear hardship. Honestly, it cleans away the negative karma. And the thing is, you go to the beach in Thailand, it's great. There's nothing wrong with the beach. You go to the beach. I mean, for me, how many days are you there and you're like, Okay, back to the practice. The mind gets a little lazy with the beach and how long, and just look at that in your life of those little pleasurable things after a while. You have to experiment, see. Okay,
Those were the questions.
those are the questions. Okay, great. So I just wanted, so organ donation, we talked a bit. Euthanasia, another one, talking about turning off machines. And we don't euthanize in Tibetan Buddhism, in the Buddhist tradition. We don't tend to euthanize. So that means we don't euthanize our animals, our pets. That's a hard one for people. Your dog is really old, really big, has really bad cancer, and you're really having a struggle taking care of your large dog. Their incontinence, I've been there with animals. We don't euthanize. What we do is to try to make the animal comfortable, try to take care, whatever you can do. If we had a smaller animal, even larger ones, if there's a stupa at a center, you can we've actually put large dogs in a wagon and taken them around the stupa just to get an imprint. Small ones, cats can be carried or put in a box and take them around the stupa, seen as a good thing to do. You can have a stupa in a room and you just, a smaller stupa, take them around if the stupa is filled, and making them comfortable, having mantras that play on these rotating tapes that over and over, it just plays. You can have it on the computer that it live streams to the animal. We've had prayer wheels at their head and texts at their head, and you just, you do medicine Buddha practices. We've done all kinds of things for animals. So that's what we would do. Again, people go, really? Can't just take them to the vet and put them out of their suffering? You don't know what karma they're purifying and finishing. How long do they last in this state? They usually don't last that long. 3 weeks, maybe? I mean, sometimes I do know people taking care of an old animal for 2 years, but so it's kind of our deal with the animal, right? We like them when they're young and healthy, and then they get old and we just discard. So we don't just discard. I know it's hard for people, but that's what Tibetan Buddhism said. Let's make sure we usher them out of that animal rebirth and let them finish all that karma. If we interrupt it and euthanize, they may have to come back and finish it in the next life in a way like that. Could affect. So with humans, similarly, we don't do a lot of euthanasia in our countries, but they do have that. You have that it's called, what's it called in the Netherlands? Self-assisted suicide. Self-assisted, I think a friend of mine did that here in Maastricht, I think. That I don't know how to pronounce that, but an American, he lived there and got terrible cancer and was able to do that through, you process all the papers through your medical thing, and then you can do that. And I think for some people that could be helpful because he could escape all the pain of what he was going through. Pain can be managed. It's a personal decision then. If you're in a country that has euthanasia like that, you could see it. And again, you might be able to get advice from a high lama, something like that. Okay, I want to talk about the 5 powers. So let's go back a little bit into our wonderful text. It's time for the late or the deceased to be said, and we said this again, you hear your name at the beginning or end of my sweet name, right? This is going to happen to me. The late Sylvie, the late John, the late Yenny, like that. You suddenly are like, who are they talking about? It's time for my room to be filled with the sounds of the weeping of my affectionate close friends and my servants. This is going to happen to you. So we've talked about this. Time for my hats, clothes, and possessions to be distributed in every direction with nothing left. This is going to happen to you. It's time for me in total despair to reach alone the treacherous passage of the intermediate state. This is going to happen to you. It's time for the terror of the 4 frightening enemies, the 4 elements turning against me, to suddenly strike me. This is going to happen to you. When trapped in darkness at the bottom of a mountain gorge, I have the appearance of being crushed by a furious rain of earth. What to do? So initially, just looking at this, we talked a little bit about possessions, designating now, you know, you can list it in a will. You can put notes under things. I want this to go to so-and-so. Fine. Let that stuff go. Inform others what you want done, so you don't have to think about it in the Bardo experience. You go into, they say, the treacherous passage. Okay. Now it depends what's happening for you. It depends how you lived your life. Depends what your mind is habituated with. Depends on what are your last thoughts of this life, last imprints in your mind, as far as if it's treacherous or what experience you're having in the Bardo. So Pema Chodron talks about in her book, I wonder if I can find the title of, let me see if I can find title of that book just quickly. Just going to stop the share for a moment. I just read it on retreat. Let's see. It's something I can find quickly.
That process, or-
It's a death, it's her latest, a newer book on death. You know what, I think I have it. Let's see if you, because there were some really, I found meaningful things that, let me see if I can,
How we live is how we die.
yes, that one. Thank you. Not coming up in my, it's probably on the phone. Anyway, I do want to recommend, because that, let me see if I've got it here. Okay, let's see if I have something I can say about.
Put the link in the chat.
Okay, no, it's gonna take me to,
Amazon.
it's not coming up, yeah. So how we live is how we die, and she's got some very interesting things in there that there are subtle lights and things, and this is more in her, and let me just see if I can, I did make some notes on this. I can find just hang on one second, I might be able to find it here. I meant to get it ready for. Just looking at the date so I can see when I made this note. No, I can't find it. Okay.
You try looking at the clean space. And type in the text.
No, I don't know what it's listed under, so it's a shame. I know I just used it in the death retreat in India, but Sorry, I'm not very organized with my classes and things. Look at one other little thing. Yeah, anyway, I can't find it. So, but she talks about, from my memory, she talks about visions that will come to you, and there's different kinds of light. So it's really nice in the book to read. And this is more Kagyu tradition, slightly different view, but it's somewhat similar. And you have various delusions in this life. We know some people feel like anger, they get more prone to that. Some people more prone to attachment, pride, jealousy, doubt, fear, anxiety, confusion, things like, we all have our own wiring. So what she says is, don't necessarily feel that those things are bad, but we work on them. We don't want to act out from them, but use them. So this is whole process of transformation of the mind. So I need to kind of become, as you would say, become friends with your anger. Talk to your delusion. Understand the attachment. Why am I grasping onto that person? You know, understand how it feels for you and everything. But in that Bardo experience, okay, this is where you kind of want to be the warrior with it. So they'll present to you in various ways. They'll come up to you in like various images and things like this. But what she also says is, there's a part in the Bardo, she explains, you know, I suppose from teaching she's had and things, and there's softer, kind of quieter light that we gravitate to, that is the repetition of cyclic existence. The natural way that the common limited mind goes to is, that's quieter. The Bardo can be extremely distracting, noisy, frightening, and all this, based on what's in your mind. Go into the fear. Yeah. So face the demon is what she's saying. It may be horrible, and you may have all these bright lights that are coming at you, and what we immediately do is go to what's safer, easier. And she's saying that's not the answer. Resist that and try to face, because once you face, what is it that's really there? There's nothing there inherently. And once you kind of show your face and go, what are you? What's going on here? That's the path to higher realization. So it's something to just think about in that experience. But a lot of times we're terrified and confused. You're not in control of that thing, that time. So you just end up going, okay, this is quiet. This is, oh, let me do what's easy. Let me go with the easy path, and around you go again. So it's an interesting part of that book that I found really helpful. She has a lot of really interesting things in there. Just looking to see if I've got a little, what did I do with those notes? They were great. Okay, I'm gonna look one last other place. Sorry?
That's unintentional.
Oh, oops.
So this was the book by Pema Chodron, is that correct?
Pema Chodron, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yep. I'm just looking for one other. Right here. Anyway, sorry, I can't find it. Okay. Okay, so how do we also get ready now? The 5 powers is Rinpoche's style. And a lot of this you're already doing in your life. Think about the 5 powers. This is, and Rinpoche might even list combining an entire life's practice into the 5 powers. into the 5 powers. Oh, I'm sorry. We were back into sharing. We were back into the text. What I wanted to say. Okay. So you have your Bardo experience. We talked about some of the possessions and things. So again, that treacherous passage, think about it. Okay. What you can do now, one of the things you do now in your life's practice, in your Dharma practice, okay, is you want to start dealing with the difficult stuff now. This is what I've been talking about. We have to do that now. This isn't a time of waiting. So if I'm facing the hardest things in my life right now, you lose a loved one. That's one of the hardest things we go through. You lose a life partner. Incredibly hard. You lose a kid. I hope that doesn't happen to you. You lose a kid. Okay. But these things happen. So in my grief and despair, grieving is a natural part of the death process. When you lose a loved one, don't shut your grief off. I'm okay. I should be better now. Nope. So the normal grief cycle is about 2 years. The normal grief cycle. Somebody old dies, somebody died of cancer, long-term cancer or illness, and you lose that person. Your normal cycle is about 2 years. And what it means is just there's times you're going to be really sad for no reason because you lost them. There's times you might find you just break down for no reason because you just suffered a traumatic loss. It's very normal. Let yourself do that. Now, granted, you don't want to be in the middle of a business presentation and you break down. You want to try to contain it to when you can break down, but you're sitting at your kitchen table just having some yogurt one day, having a glass of water, and you break down. And then what we have this thing is crying is not okay somehow in our cultures. I don't know where that came from. That's how I was raised. Crying doesn't help. Well, I think it helps. So these things, and so what happens is I meet with a lot of students in the middle of the meeting, something they want to talk about, something traumatic, right? They start crying. Then what do they say?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Why? Why are you sorry? You don't have to be sorry. Because you're showing emotion, right? Is this from the patriarchy? Not allowed to cry. Poor men. The men I know in the United States, they're not allowed to cry. So God bless Barack Obama for crying publicly. Thank you. For His Holiness the Dalai Lama for crying publicly. For men, to give them an example, you can cry publicly and be a strong leader. It's such a shame like that. So people say, I'm sorry, no problem. So the grief cycle, you wake up one day, you just don't feel good. You don't feel like doing anything. You're depressed. That's normal. That's normal. You don't want it to take over your life. Now, certainly in the beginning of the loss, give yourself some space. You know, make sure there's some space for you to take care of yourself. Make sure you have a good support system. That's okay. Grieving process, okay? But then around that, and for sudden deaths, for death of a child, sudden deaths, the grieving process can be a little longer, but also know the grieving process ends. There's people that are victims all the time. They lost a child, they never recover. So you're never the same after you lose a kid. You will never be the same, I don't think. Okay, but you can still pick yourself up and do something really meaningful with your life and be bright and upbeat again. And you can help so many other parents that have just lost a kid like that. So some people just let it go on and on. They lost their partner. 10 years later, you know, still bathed in their black clothes of widowhood and stuff. They lost their partner. Really? You think about it. There's so much good you could still be doing with your life. So you always will think about that person, that dear loved one, and of course, but it doesn't have to make you a victim for the rest of your life. So then what we want to do is, then I need to continue to make sure I'm dealing with the biggest obstacles in my practice. My mind, what's in my mind? What are the biggest things that control my mind in a negative way? And go after them now. That's going to be the loud noise in the Bardo experience. So it may not be as treacherous if I've dealt with those things now. The elements turn against you. Earth, water, fire, air, and stuff. So here it talks about you can feel like a Bardo person that you're crushed, and you feel that way when you're dying as the earth element dissolves. What they're talking about, I feel like I'm being crushed under the earth. Well, if you haven't thought about that, you hadn't heard about that initially, you could be freaked out. completely freaked out. But if you go, okay, that's right. Oh, that's right. This is the earth. This is simply the earth element dissolving. My subtle mind's going to go on to something else. I'm going to get a new form. And if you are old and if you are dying of cancer, you get a new form, you get a new body. It's going to be healthy and young and generating and supple and flexible. Exciting. If you suffered from Alzheimer's, you're going to get a new mind, new brain that doesn't have that illness like that. And then it goes on, when caught in the whirlpool of a vast ocean, I have the appearance of being swept away by violent, swirling waves. What to do? That could be your experience in the Bardo. When I experience my heart and ears being split open by the roaring, raging, great fiery inferno, what to do? So you got the water element dissolving, fire element dissolving. The next is the wind. These are experiences. So when Pema Chodron talks about the loud noises, loud colors, and, you know, face it, go in there. Okay. When you go in there, it dissolves. When you go in there and face it, sometimes the only way is through to freedom. If you're constantly running away and escaping and finding the easy way out, you'll never get to the other side. It's hard. I know it's hard. Okay. When enveloped in the dark winds of the end of the eon, I have a terrifying appearance of being blown away. What to do? Practice, face it. Okay. Because everything is empty anyway. And if you are remembering your guru at the center of your heart, center of your being, okay, that's the truth that takes you through. If you can remember love and kindness there. And here's the big thing, bodhicitta. If I'm in that experience, and I'm terrified, you know, and this is what I'm going through, the solidified I. This is my experience, on and on and on. And what if I think of all the other beings confused in this experience? How about all the other beings that die without Dharma? What do they do in the dying experience? Now, you might be a very good Christian. And I know one of my friend's mother, she's a Buddhist nun, her mother died. She was a very devout Catholic. I don't really think she had any trouble when she died. Every morning, she'd get out her prayer book, she'd read, she went to church on Sunday. She very strong faith in Catholicism and its belief system. No problem. So she was going to have whatever that faith provided her in that space of her death experience. That's fine. That's your belief system. That's fine. As long as it's something that you feel is your truth, leading you to something positive, helpful. So as soon as I think about what are the beings that don't have any spiritual practice, nothing there to turn to, because what they've been turning to in life is streaming videos, marijuana, alcohol, you know, constant travel just to see stuff, or maybe yelling at people, maybe overworking, just amassing money. Those things, what are they going to do when you're dying in the Bardo? You know, so having all those alongside in a moderate amount, that's okay. We're not laying it, but if that's all that you're doing, that's your saving grace, that's what your happiness is, it's going to be pretty terrifying in the Bardo. You're not going to know where to turn. No joints in the Bardo that, you know, that are going to relieve that tension for you. Okay. So just think about, if that's a space, and I can think of bodhicitta, and I'm patterned already, thinking all these other beings going through this, lost. No guru, no dharma, no peace of mind, no thinking of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Bring that to mind. That'll get you right. That's your buddy in the Dharma. Whether the visions, the water's carrying you away, the mountains are soaring, but that's okay, because I'm anchored here. That stuff doesn't really exist the way it appears. It looks terrifying right now. Call on the guru, that inner heart as well, your own highest experience of all your positive qualities. That's the absolute guru. That's always with you, but we're just not patterned to call that up more quickly. Not habituated enough in the mind. That's what we want to do. And that may be manifesting as the loudness, the bright noise, the bright lights. Go in and face that delusion. You know, there's my anger as the big mountain coming down on my head. Okay, what's through? I've been through the big mountain coming down on my head before. I've survived it. So go in there and look at it, and you're going to get through it. You'll end up riding right through it, like that. Okay. When driven by the thought of what to do. Okay, when bound with a lasso by Yama's messengers, I'm led away, trembling in despair. What to do? When I'm tortured in so many detestable ways by ox and scorpion-headed karmic guardians, what to do? Okay, now these are more Tibetan images too. And when the lamas would first give us initiations and they tell us about dreams, and then they'd say, tonight, watch your dreams. And if you're, riding a yak at sunset over the barley fields, and that means this. We don't dream like that. We dream that we're in, a little Subaru on the LA freeway, So again, but again, your ox and scorpion-headed karmic guardians may have another form that terrifies you. Some horror movie you watched, and that image comes back to you. Could be, I don't know if this speaks to anyone, Hannibal Lecter. Does that come to you in a cannibal, like that, in a human form? When I'm before the Lord of Death, the king of Yamas, that's what they mean, as he weighs up the white and black, my virtue and non-virtue, what to do. I don't really like images of white and black. It's a little bit racist, but my good deeds, my bad deeds, what am I going to do? And Catholicism talks about this. There you are in front of the gates with St. Peter, and he's going, okay, should we let this person into heaven? It's a very similar imagery. So make sure now, from this moment on, there's a lot of virtue going into my store bank, into my mind bank. A lot of virtue going in there. My body, speech, and mind creating positive habits, please. That's going to make the ride easier for you. But what are you habituating your mind with as well will make the ride easier. If I can remember those things I mentioned, bodhicitta, emptiness, any particular teacher I have, kindness, think of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, right? And you have other practices, meditations in your mind, great. When Yama exposes the deception of my having spent my human life in attachment, hatred, and hypocrisy, what to do? Okay, if those are more of my imprints, I have to start turning them around now. When at Yama's court of law, the punishment that is the ripened result of the negative actions I've done is meted out, what to do. So ripened result means rebirth in a lower realm if it's negativity. Okay, and then there's many ways it ripens in that way. If it's a lot of killing karma that I've done, including killing insects, that can come up and I have a tendency to kill again. I find it very easy to kill again. I have a habit of that. I don't see the problem with it. Or it can also ripen in my environment. People are trying to kill me. Medicines don't work for me. I have a very short life that's full of illness. Like that. This is the way karma results based on my activities. When my body is stretched out naked on the red hot iron ground in the fires of hell, what to do? So if I happen to take an unfortunate rebirth in hell realm based on some really negative sadistic killing karma, what are you going to do? So let's make sure we steer away from that. And these are all hell rebirths they're talking about now, when my body is cut to pieces. So this is gruesome. This is a heavy text by Pavanka Rinpoche, but it's a little bit designed to scare you, to say, hello, are you practicing? Hi there, are you getting your practice in? Like, you really have to start thinking about that these things could be coming soon to a body near you. My body's cut to pieces by a rain of sharp weapons. That's like a hell rebirth. Still have to experience it without dying. What to do? There are hell rebirths where you're cut up in pieces based on whatever karma got you into that situation, okay? And then you regenerate again. You die, you regenerate, and immediately you're cut up in pieces again. And you go through that for eons and eons and eons, okay? We don't want to experience that. Why do they talk about those hell realms? To get you to practice. Do they actually exist? The lamas say sometimes they do exist. There are these hell places. Or is it a state of mind? We know some people living in our human realm that we interact with that seem to be living in a hell realm, right? That's their experience. So, well, again, we want to avoid this. This is scary. How do I avoid it? Practice Dharma now. Make the good imprints now. So it goes on about when I'm cooked in molten iron, till my flesh falls away, my bones disintegrate, and I have to experience it without dying again. I go through it again and again, what to do. When my body and fire burn inseparably, still I don't die, what to do. So they say the worst hell, the Avicii hell, created by incredible negative sadistic killing, whatever, is you can't even discern the being, the human or the body from the fire. They're just, but you just hear the screams, the anguish like that. They say there's a hell like that. Or we meet people in our realm that live like that. I mentioned one time I went through took a lama to a mental institution to visit a student. And there was a guy in a ward we passed through on the edge of his bed. And the temperature was like it is in this room. And he was freezing to death. So we have freezing hells in Buddhism too. We have a variety of hells, not just like Catholicism where you burn forever. We don't do anything forever in any of these realms. You simply live in the realm based on whatever got you in there, whatever karma you created with your body, speech, and mind. And then while you're in there, if you're suffering, you're exhausting the karma that got you in there. And then you move out. You finish the karmic seeds through that level of purification, and you move out to something less suffering. So eventually we want to stop creating lower rebirths and just keep building and building and building onto a human rebirth that can get to a pure realm. Easy to practice Dharma all the time and get enlightened. So this patient in the ward had piled up in blankets, lips were blue, teeth were chattering, like he was freezing to death. I walked by him. That was the experience I saw. He was in a human realm to me. I could see him, but looked like he was freezing to death. Poor person. Whatever his mind, trapped in that mind, like that. So, yeah, we're almost. When struck by a fierce blizzard in frozen waste, my body cracks into 100,000 pieces. What to do? These are the cold realms that he's talking about now, cold hells. So your body splits open, cracked, freezing. Something to think about, okay? When you are extremely hot, you have a little bit of a hot season in Amsterdam, not super hot, but sometimes you're in a hot climate. You're really, really hot. Some people don't like that. Think about the beings in the hot hells. Think about offering to them. When I do an offering practice every day, I try to remember the different realms. So my hot hells, they get cooling rain, snow, cooling breezes come by to totally alleviate that burning suffering for them. Ointment and salve on any blisters and totally relieved, immediately, permanently relieved of any of that suffering. My cold hells, they get warm baths, warm sun, warm beaches, like that. Totally alleviates any frozen experience for them and leads them to happiness. So you can offer that. The animals, they get food and drink they want. They get freedom from fear. Animals have a lot of fear in the wild and things. Alleviating that, you can imagine. And imagine offering to all the human realms and the God realms. I think about Gaza, every day. I think about Sudan and all the other places where people are struggling, and think about whatever would alleviate their suffering immediately, I offer. And imagine them happy, peaceful. So I know they're not happy and peaceful, but from your mind, it exercises your mind. Some way to make virtue with the news instead of just being paralyzed. Oh my God. And instead of it creating, be careful about this, division in your mind. I hate them. They're horrible. It's more about spreading the loving kindness for Gazans, Palestinians, Israelis. Like, we demonize one side or the other. That's what duality does. A lack of understanding of emptiness, how we're all dependent on everything else. So I have a number of family members in Israel right now. They don't agree with what's going on. You don't hear about that. Most of them, there's like 40 of them over there. 30 of them, I'm guessing, don't agree at all with what's going on with the government. That's an average of Israelis, don't agree with what's going on. They feel powerless right now. They have been depressed for this whole conflict. They sympathize with the Gazans. They don't know what to do. They feel like they can't even protest half the time. They used to have a couple of my cousins were part of groups that would, Palestinians, Israeli Jews meeting to dialogue, all kinds of different support groups like that. They said, none of that can even happen right now. It's just, there's no forum for it to happen. People are like paralyzed. They're so depressed. So I'm not just saying, oh, woe is them. They're so depressed. They're killing all the Gazans. These are people that are just people like us trying to live and raise their kids, and they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. You know, Netanyahu's like this, I don't know, I call him like the mega octopus. He's got tentacles in everywhere. The frightening thing, the frightening difference for me, shouldn't even say this on, but is, sorry. I guess a frightening difference for me is if you're taking some of the leaders in the world, we have Trump in the United States, as you're aware, Netanyahu, but Netanyahu's intelligent, right? So very different, like, you know, how he is dug in with people. It's just not simple to just take him out. Like, it's just, he's so enmeshed in, so sad, so sad. So again, we can pray for peace and hope there's some way of dialogue and something, and to stop this god awful killing. I mean, it's just like that. It's just horrible for all of us. It's not, now they're living through it, but it's the Gazans living through it and being destroyed, but it's horrible for all of us. So instead of my division of I hate them and I hate him and he's awful, is kind of like and the leaders, I'd say, in some level, as hard as it is, we have to practice compassion, because otherwise it creates hatred in my heart. That's not going to benefit. If I just say I hate him and he's the great evil, my mind created it. Buddhism says my mind created to have leaders like that in the world, and totalitarian regimes comes from my mind, Buddhism says. So I'm not blaming myself, but what I'm going to do is try to create more loving kindness in my heart and mind, stop the duality, pray for these people, can do Tonglen, you know, work on dismantling that duality in my mind. It's very difficult, but we just have to try. Does that make sense? Am I resonating, or are we communicating? You know, you may disagree. You may go, no, these people, I mean, you can see them as evil. I see acts that I go, oh my God, how can people do that to each other? But just if I start creating more negativity in my mind, that doesn't solve anything. Doesn't solve anything. So, but you have to check up on that. So in some ways, we have a lot of great stuff to practice with right now on the planet. And so those are the suffering, the hell realms. When I fall into the miserable state of a hungry and thirsty preta, it's the next level up, lower realms, preta realm, excuse me, hungry ghost. I have to remain there starving for many years. What to do? So their level of their life is dominated with hunger and thirst, never having enough, never being able. We come to the river as a human, and I see the river. Okay, a god comes to the river and sees ambrosial nectar. It's based on the karma in your mind, based on the view in your mind. A preta comes to the river, and it's a dry riverbed. Right. So they also say you give the glass with the liquid in it to the god, and they see ambrosial nectar that they drink. Lovely. That's their experience. That's their mind. Human sees it as a lovely glass of water, refreshing, wonderful, quenches my thirst. Preta comes to the glass and it's blood and pus. Just based on what's in your mind, what you experience. When I become a stupid, mute, unfortunate animal, I'm eaten alive or eat others alive, what to do? The animal realm. When the extremely unbearable sufferings of the lower realms actually befall me, what to do? So here we go. Don't be distracted. And he says, now don't be distracted. Quickly, right this moment, it's time to steal myself from the depths of my heart. Steal myself here means bearing hardship from the depths of my heart. I have to bear up. That's why it's steal. I have to be strong from the depths of my heart, since it's not only the right time to practice. Right now, it's almost too late for us, right? How many other imprints do you have in your life that you've made that aren't going to benefit you at the death time? Okay. Right now, quickly focus on Dharma. The instructions of the Soul Father, the kind Guru, the essence of the views and writings of victorious pure wisdom Tsongkhapa, the practice of the complete pure path of Sutra and Tantra. It's time to place authentic experience of them in my mind stream. He's talking about Lama Tsongkhapa's lineage, That's our lineage in the Gelugpa tradition, because he was a Gelugpa teacher, your guru, things like that. We have all the teachings right now. So again, and I love here on the board in the hallway, you have the whole teaching education system. Right there, you can look and you go, where do I start? What do I want to do? Get an intro course going. Some of you are already doing. Beginner intro, there's intermediate level, all kinds of different things. And they'll have visiting teachers come and give a different presentation of something you've heard. We hear teachings over and over again, right? The first time it's a pass. Second time, a little bit goes in, a little bit more. Third time, now we got a little bit stronger grasp of it. That's what it's like. We hear the same, so don't kind of go, oh, I already had that teaching. Well, do you have an attainment of it? So think about it, go do it again. You get a deeper level. This time I'm going to do it and do the readings with it. Next time I'm going to do it and I'm going to do the meditations. Then I think I'll go through it again and really put it all together. Then you really have a deep understanding. So take your time and do that. So all kinds of different levels of things. Just start a little bit in the beginning, get some advice from the center. What do you think I should do next? What attracts you? What would you like to do next? And along the side, you could do some preliminary practices. Nundro, some clearing away negativities, cleaning up, whatever I messed up in the past, doesn't matter what I did, but I'm going to clean it up. And I'm going to accumulate conditions and create the causes of virtue. Streamline like that. Last verse. I'll one-pointedly apply my 3 doors to practice to see who is faster. Me in my practice to reach the essence of my final goal, the works of self and others as much as I can each day, or Yama, the Lord of Death. So what's going to come first? You're going to get more imprints, positive imprints in, or die first. Now, when you do die, you're going to die, go through the whole thing, take a rebirth again, and off we go again and start again. But those imprints come. Like me in my first 10-day course, Kopan Monastery, I mentioned at lunch to some people, my first 10-day course, I didn't know anything about Buddhism. I'd seen the Buddha, I'd been to Thailand. I was like, Buddha, I got a little bit of, understood that, but I didn't know much about Buddhism. And then I did a 10-day course, happened to pick this tradition, could have been any tradition, but ended up there. Why? Karmic seeds in my mind directed me there. This particular tradition, Kopan Monastery, they were very open. They had a great course, inexpensive, whatever, very accommodating. And then I started hearing things and hearing those things. Some of it I was kind of like, huh, that sounds familiar. I never heard these teachings before, but a little bit went in and just a little bit of resonance. Like, that makes sense. That makes sense. So good, I started there. Some of it I didn't like. I put that to the side, right? Some of it, and then I just kept gradual, slowly. Okay, everybody okay? So, and how do we do this practice now? The 5 powers. 5 powers. So glad I got through the text. Sometimes I don't get through it. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you. Hope to see you again. What do I need to do? We're already doing some of this. Okay. Power of the motivation. We've talked about that. And this is just a way to put my life together in this way. 5 powers. Let's reduce it to that. Power of the motivation. What's your motivation for doing something? What motivates your actions during the day? And you can rekindle that during the day. We're going to have another gap at the end of the class. You can pause. So we dedicate, but then you're off on your next adventure the rest of today. What's your motivation? Maybe you have an evening meal tonight. Do you offer the meal? Do you think about it? Think about people that are starving? A little bit, think of offering to them. Slowly. Motivation for, then I go to work. So what's my motivation for going to work? What's my motivation for going to sleep tonight? I gave you an idea, okay? Okay, and then think about in this motivation, what is Dharma? What makes an action Dharma? We discussed before, avoiding delusion in your mind. Turning a delusion in your mind to something else. Applying an antidote to counter the delusion. Am I doing that? So when that negative imprint in my mind comes up again, do I just let it come up again and nothing? And do I carry it on and think another moment? We have some issues. You might have an issue with a person in your life. They irritate you. Anybody have anybody irritating in their life? Of course. Everybody, you know, there's some, I mean, it can be little irritation, but something annoyed you. So then what happens is you think the thought again and it annoys you. I think the thought again and it annoys me. And again, and then I might mention to somebody else, that annoys me when she did that. And I tell her again, you know, and then she did, and then she'll come back with another, yeah, she always does that. And then she's like that. And so I'm starting to solidify that it's happening externally for me and it's them and it's their fault. It doesn't exist like that at all. You have to kind of say, wow, that person just did something that really annoyed me. That's coming from my mind. This is what Dharma practice. It's coming from my mind. I'm uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable with it. It makes me sad. It's funny, I have that person in my life that's often doing those little irritating pokes. So I can a little bit see them as precious because they're showing me my mind, where I have to work in my mind because I still get irritated. And have I ever did that? Have I ever done that to anybody? What they're doing? Yeah, I have once in a while. That's where, so I'm getting that back. It's coming back. Karma's coming back. And let me just analyze what's really annoying me about it. Look how my I comes up and I think, well, I'm important. I should be, you know, treated a little better than this, or they should have offered me that instead of offering to her. But, you know, and you start looking and you realize you don't exist at all like that. So you have to go in and analyze. So again, I'm facing this discomfort now, and it might be at a very light level of irritation. So in my Bardo experience, if that wants to come reaming back, well, I've looked at it already a few times. I'm going to keep going forward and right in there. I'm ready. I'm steeled for my practice. I'm ready for the Bardo. Right? So we have to practice now on that. We have to keep analyzing. What is that irritation about? Why am I so attached to this person? Where's that? What is attachment going to be? Let me analyze that person. Let me look at them and according to emptiness. So on and on, we have to keep applying whatever based on each delusion. And so we slowly, through these classes, learn what are the antidotes, how best to apply them, power motivations, all comes under that. And you can change your motivation. Sometimes you realize you think it's a good motivation. People do this when they give gifts. How do you give generosity? What's your motivation for giving? I'm just curious. Anybody? Do you like to give? Some people like, some people don't give.
To make the other person happy.
To make the other person happy. That's nice. That feels good, right? Is that how everybody gives? To make the other person happy? Anybody give a little differently? Or ever has, Lizette?
I feel happy when I
Yeah, because I want to give because it makes me happy. That's nice. I mean, generosity makes me happy. I like giving as well. But I am also thinking about the other person. Lizette, what were you
It's the whole combination of the both. To see somebody happy and feel that enormous happiness in yourself.
Yes. Nice. Okay. So there's some people I know that I've known that they would give and say, like, well, what did she give you? You're going to get her that for the wedding? What did they give you? Really? I'm like, there's some people that give because they're expecting a little something back. You know, maybe the next time or they give and they want, you know, your appreciation. She never thanked me. Did you ever hear this? They didn't list my name on the thing I gave to the center. They didn't acknowledge me. I didn't get a special seat at the whatever it is. You know, I want them to think that I'm worthy, that I, you know, because I gave to that's not really generosity. That's not pure generosity. That's ego. That's ego. Okay. So you can always change up and just notice, not a big trip initiative, notice it's not pure giving. I need to exercise a little better on that. Here's B, second power. The power of the virtuous seed. the virtuous seed. Sometimes they say the white seed. I don't like that, that virtue is always, okay, what is merit? What is virtue? And you just want to explore this. Okay. Merit is the, I'm creating causes that will, positive causes that are create smooth path for me. Help me do the practices like that. Open that space for me to progress to the path to enlightenment. Virtue, again, positive activity. Positive activity. And then what I take with them, and we'll do this at the end, the merit and the virtue, the merit, I'm dedicating it. So what they say in Tibetan Buddhism, and I don't know how the process really works, but I'm going to dedicate my merit. I'm going to dedicate whatever positive energy that we've created in this time together, and I'm going to dedicate it to my getting fully enlightened quickly and moving along the path to full awakening, to becoming a Buddha, whatever you want to say. But the real purpose, to benefit all living beings. It's not just to get enlightened. That's not the goal here. The goal is to benefit all living beings perfectly. And you do that as a Buddha. So once you dedicate, they say you seal in that virtue, that merit, that cause. Okay. When you don't dedicate and then you have a heavy delusion like anger, you destroy some of the merit. Like that. So you kind of go, when I dedicate, how does it work? Like, where does it go? I don't really know the process. I've asked that before. But I do have some faith that at least let me take a moment and think about that and dedicate it like that. So that's kind of how we dedicate, and what I just like to have a closure of, like, I'm including this, but I really want to invest that positive energy. I'm like putting that in the bank a little bit. I see it a little bit like that. The C, the third power, the power of familiarity. The power of familiarity. So we do say practice makes perfect. We have that expression in English. You probably have something like that in Dutch. Practice makes perfect. This is a rehearsal. And we talk about meditation practice. We even call it that. Okay. So it's a rehearsal. This is me familiarizing and habituating my mind. Okay, with either the antidotes I need to counter my delusions in my mind, which is ordinary for an ordinary human being with a limited consciousness. Okay, and I also want to habituate my mind with virtuous mind states and have that more familiar in my mind. That's what I reach for. Sometimes you'll see that evident in dreams, that it'll come up where there's lots of positivity in dreams. Don't be afraid if you have a negative dream. I had a really horrible dream last night of one of our leaders was doing surgery on me, if you can imagine. Yeah, it was pretty. And I woke up in the middle and I was kind of like, really? Like, I think I was lucid in the dream going, can we get out of here now? Like, can we get, you know, it's so interesting. I know where it came from. So familiarity comes with practice. You have to get on the cushion. So you have to start to have, you have to have the internal experience. You have to start working internally. You went out there and you got upset today about something, comes back to the cushion. What happened? Okay. I find it fascinating. And that's a little bit where I started in my practice, that I started enjoying that space of sitting. It wasn't just, I'm on the breath, because that got kind of boring. You know, I'm on the breath, I couldn't stay on the breath, or I got a little better on the breath, and I got a little better, and then we tried this meditation. But when I actually started analyzing, why did I respond like that? What was that person trying to show me? Why did they manifest that way? Look how I interpreted them, but she interpreted them in a completely different way. Wow, that's interesting. Are they inherently evil and nasty? And, you know, well, that's how I'm looking at them. That was the beginning of my, so it was very interesting and fascinating. I started to be attracted to coming back to sitting again, to be like, okay, what was going to happen today with my mind? What could I look at today? And analyze, and then apply something I was learning in the study and courses I was doing. Okay. It was, and then the next day go out there, the external practice, and go back to work and go, okay, I'm ready for the meeting with this person that's a little scary, or that I was really negative about yesterday. Let me see them in a new light, and to see that there was progress. I could do that. That was exciting. So familiarizing myself, it takes effort. You have to have the internal practice, which is informing the external practice. And effort requires, so we talk about one of the perfections, joyous effort, sometimes called enthusiastic perseverance. It's one of the 6 perfections, the methods of generating bodhicitta. Okay, so effort isn't just making effort, it's making effort in virtue. That's what joyous effort really is about. So can I bring that enthusiasm into my practice? And where I started really enjoying getting on my cushion because I was really starting to watch my mind and starting to counter some. And I was noticing that the negative tendencies at times were lessening in certain habits because I was there working with it and looking at them and analyzing in a very realistic way, not in any special, highly scholarly, whatever. It was just, you start looking at your mind and you start noticing that aspect of my mind, I'm uncomfortable with. I don't want that anymore in my mind. So you can change it. So then that grew some enthusiasm, you know, and then aspiration when I'd be around certain teachers and I'd see a quality in them. And then I'd be like, I'd like to be like that. You know, and then it would increase some energy in my practice. So that's a way we keep our practice full of energy so that I want to continue to work on it. There are plateaus you'll reach. That's normal. Okay. Come back to the center, try a different course, talk to another student. What worked, you know, kickstart something again. You know, it's hard. I know somebody I just talked to, they go, well, I need to start, I'm starting my practice again. I kind of really went away from, okay, they're coming back. You know, find the energy to come back, figure out, talk to other students like that. And as much as you can, you're trying to slowly spend little pockets of your day. You can't do it all day. If you could, that's great, but it's hard. Little where you come into work and you go, okay, the first hour I'm going to be really mindful. I really want to kind of watch everybody, want to keep everything very equanimous. And you can get little periods of that going. You make little contests with yourself. Okay, I'm going into a meeting and I'm kind of dreading this meeting, whatever. But in the meeting, especially if it's multi-people, so I don't have to be the one engaging all the time, multi-people, and I can sit back a little bit and observe, meaning I can observe my mind observing other people. You know, and you see, watch your judgments. Like, what he just said, I don't agree with that. He's always, oh, I really like what she says all the time. And he's really great. So I'm just watching and then realizing a little bit concretely holding them, then not concretely holding them, arrangements, like why my mind's projecting in this way, seeing them in a certain way. They don't exist the way they're appearing to me. So you play with it a little bit. 4th power. The antidote. Delusions will arise. That's common for ordinary beings. Okay. Let me notice them as they arise in my mind. Okay, it's your mind. You're not noticing them in other people. It's your mind. You might notice that somebody's always there when you have this certain affliction. That's helpful to notice that. It's not blaming them, but you may want to reorganize your life a little bit and have less time with that kind of influence. That's all. They're not a bad person. It's just this is a certain karmic arisal from your mind. So understand through your sitting practice, how can we protect ourselves from delusions that arise in our mind? Okay. And what about your habitual self-cherishing attitude? How does that affect anything in the way you engage in the world and the way you see the world? Your habitual self-cherishing attitude. Figure out ways, how can we cultivate mindfulness? Okay, vigilance is a type of mindfulness. Remembering my practice, remembering when this delusion comes to my mind, what is it that I apply? Okay, so I'm building my Dharma toolbox to know that with this aspect of anger, what I need to do is send the immeasurable love out to this person. May you have happiness and all the causes of happiness. That's the best I can do right now in this person. I'm really angry, I'm really irritated. So may you have happiness and all the causes of happiness. You may not totally be there with it, but you're trying. It's the best you can do. How can we ensure that all of our actions serve as factors to oppose the self-cherishing and the self-grasping? So it's something you can ask yourself. It's again through constant vigilance work, you know, setting a good motivation again and again and again, and trying to study, read, learn, meditate on emptiness. Takes time. Fifth power, the power of prayer. Again, this relates to dedication, dedicating merit, and making sure everything is sealed in like that at the end of an activity, any activity like that. We're running out of time, I know. Just talk about a couple more things. We talked about paperwork. Let me just see what so one thing I did want to say also, suicide is seen as a non-virtuous activity in Buddhism. It is not a completed killing karma. And the reason is, in order to have a very completed negative karma, you need 4 factors fully complete involved in that. You know, you have your recognition of this is the person I'm going to kill, or this is the insect I'm going to kill. You have a motivation that is kind of, this is the insect, I'm intending to do it. And you have the act that you're going to do it. But the 4th factor in killing, for instance, is the other being has to die before you. And in suicide, you die at the same time. So as a result, honestly, in karma, because karma is very intricate, it creates a little bit lighter killing karma. But the issue with suicides is there's a habit where they do it again and again and again. That imprints in the mind, unfortunately. So we don't see it as an option. Now, you might say, but they have really intense cancer. And my friend who did the self-assisted suicide in Holland, we don't usually opt for that in Buddhism. We would wait and let it finish, you know, try to get the pain medication so you don't have to be in terrible pain. That's not a requirement in Buddhism. It can be managed, palliative care, even long-term chronic pain. We would just, it's type of purification, and you just basically try to manage it until you naturally pass away. That's what Buddhism would say. Question over here, please.
Yes, I was wondering, the text seems to give not different powers, 5 powers, but a different
Order?
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they're in a different order.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't really matter of which, yeah.
Yeah, because the 3rd is the power of blaming, self-cherishing thought.
The power of blaming, the self-cherishing thought would probably come under the power of the antidote.
Yeah.
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 And also when we talk about, we'll talk a little bit about this in Lunan and the Lojong retreat. There's the 7 verses of thought transformation, Geshe Chikawa, and he has beautiful Lama Atisha's 59 Lojong slogans. And the famous one is place all the blame on one. Place all the blame on one. What's the one?
Self-cherishing.
Self-cherishing.
Yeah.
Self-cherishing. That's the thing that gets us into trouble and keeps us anchored to misery all the time. So check, when you're not happy, say, what about me? That's what's usually going on. So that would be the power of the antidote, is just to recognize, oh, that's my self-cherishing. So let me apply some antidotes there. Do the work there. Oh my goodness. Dragos, you need to keep it a little shorter, please. Okay, taking drugs. And I was thinking about the medicine for depression on those people. Okay, so maybe you understand about taking drugs for depression. Is it an external substance he's depending on, whether he should try to face the depression, anxiety without medication at some point? Wonder if this is beneficial for the bardo, and if that doesn't go well, just keep doing my practice, do the best, something I was saying. Yes, so when I said drugs, I meant recreational drugs. We escaped to recreational drugs. There's nothing inherently negative about them or positive, okay? In moderation. I'm not, saying take drugs at this point. You can sustain higher states of bliss with meditation. Drugs you can't sustain like that. And often they'll have negative side effects. But people take drugs for serious mental illnesses. That's different. I'm not talking about those kind of drugs. I was talking about escaping through recreational drugs and alcohol. things like that. So if you need to take a medication, and I do know people where some depression is more physiological and some medication really works on it. So again, please consult with a medical professional. But a lot of these drugs have side effects. So don't plan to be on the drug for the rest of your life if it's possible. Discussing them. I find people that do a comprehensive approach, they might have started, and some of the depression drugs you have to be on for like at least a year, and you have to wean yourself off. They're quite serious. So if you find it's working for you and you're working with a therapist, you're doing some meditation within reason. And I find that comprehensive approach, a lot of people have done really well. Yeah, so this isn't about stopping your drugs, antipsychotics and things like that, but just make sure you're monitoring with a good medical professional. And it would be great to think about eventually, do you have a situation where you can exhaust that karma and get off of those drugs finally. So the other thing you'd like to do on the side is continue your purification practices. We all have to do that, I would say. Purification practices are things like Vajrasattva meditation with a mantra recitation every evening. Learn how to do that. The center can show you how to do it. I have some things on my website of courses I've taught on that. Some people do prostrations to the 35 confession Buddhas. Incredible purifying practice. Reciting mantras in the right way with good visualization. Keeping your commitments. Great way to do it. Meditating on emptiness. Unbelievable purification. Okay. Doing good deeds, kind deeds. So that has to be a continuous effort all the time, regularly. Like that. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, yes, it does. Thank you very much, Venerable.
And I think sometimes therapy can be very helpful in poking through, but some people that I know chronically depressed, it comes in from another life. So you've got, and I know somebody very, very young, couple of kids I know, the age of 2 or 3, full of anxiety. Where's that come from? Not as a kid. They were not born under any trauma. Very nice life. Parents are there, every good care. Must have come in from another life. That's where you really see. Because, worried at the age of 1 or 2, really? Just came in. That's an imprint. So again, they can certainly work with mind-based, what would they say? Mindfulness-based training and therapy can be very helpful to really realize like what are the conditions, what are the triggers that make you feel that way, work with it and realize. So then you need to do the purification, because really you can purify anything and it really does work, but we have to stay at it consistently to do it. You try your best. Because I think we've talked about most of these. Medicine Buddha practice is one of the things we reach for when people are dying. You want to do for somebody sick, you yourself are dying. Medicine Buddha practice. Mantra, it's all online. The centers do it sometimes once a month. And reaching for that, we have a longer dedication prayer called the King of Prayers. We often do those, again, are the 2 things I reach for. The first things I'll do for people that have just died, in addition to a lot of things found in that red death book from Rinpoche. Okay, paperwork. I know we're out of time. I've shown this before. This is the 5 wishes. This is an American document. Something like this, I'm sure, exists in the Netherlands. 5 wishes. Okay. So it's a document that can be legalized in the States. You have ways of legalizing things in the Netherlands, I'm sure, and you write down your wishes. And this just happens to be organized in this. It's very clear. It's more like health directives. And the wishes are the person I want to make care decisions for me when I can't. Have you thought about that? You're incapacitated. Who's going to decide? Do you want a feeding tube? Do you want oxygen? Do you want a ventilator if you need it? Some people never come off ventilators. These are things you have to think about. So make sure you discuss with your loved ones, whoever is in charge of that paperwork for you, that you've designated, you've discussed with them. They said, yes, I will take care of it. Make sure they know and that they've maybe read over what you want, the kind of medical treatment you want or don't want. You specify, and it even has things in here. It'll say, if I have a severe traumatic brain trauma and I'm not expected to survive, okay, not expected to survive, then for me, I want something different if I'm not expected to survive. But if they think there might be a chance, I have different instructions. So you can be very specific. Okay, how comfortable do you want to be? There's some people that want their feet massaged. There's other people I know that don't want to be touched. Some people want their hair, taken care of. They want to be washed. Some people don't touch me like that. I don't want the bed changed. I don't want but you can be very specific. If this happens, then I want this. If this happens, I want this. How do you want people to treat you? Yeah. I want to be included in my treatment. With my dad, I remember he was very lucid to the end, but very much he couldn't always follow everything the doctor was saying. So my brother, my father, and I would meet. Sometimes it would just be me and my dad, my brother and my dad, or the three of us, and then we'd have him included in the visit. He wanted to be included in the visit. And then whatever he didn't understand, we would explain to him with the doctor that we'd say, oh, what the doctor's saying is you have this option and you also have this option. So if you do this option, then this might happen. But if you do this, if you get a little stronger, then this might be an option. So then he would understand that and we'd try to have him make the decision. And if he didn't know, then he'd say, I don't really care. I don't know. What do you think? So that's a nice way you can include somebody, especially somebody old, because often the doctors won't talk to them. They're talking to you, but the person's sitting there. Do you want that? You might not want to be involved. Let them make the decisions. I don't want to hear about it. It's up to you. It's really your decision. What I want my loved ones to know. You might not be able to say I love you to them when they're alive, but you want to know that you so appreciated them being in your life, or whatever you want to say. Write it down. You don't need to say it to them. Write it down. They can see it after. So that's a document like that goes along with, you can legalize it with your last will and testament of your assets and belongings like that if you need to do that. And the other thing I've got is I have a sheet that goes along with all this. It's not like I have a ton of assets and money or anything, but I have a sheet. So you've got credit cards, right? And here's the other thing, you have passwords, correct?
Yeah.
We have passwords for everything now. So there was a woman in the States, her husband died at the age of 39. She couldn't access any of the bank accounts. He had all the passwords. She couldn't access any of her money. It was all in his, think about it. Think about what you're leaving. Who needs access to shut down your Facebook account or this social media thing, or they want to, and if you have all that legalized, then for instance, in the States, you end up in something called probate court. If there's no will, there's no nothing, no designation, probate court can take a year for all the people left behind that may want to just get the $10,000 out of your account, and they have to go through all these other filings, where if there's a will, it's like, here's the will, you still submit the paperwork and things, so it's much easier. So try to make it easy for them. So I have a whole thing of what credit cards, the bank account, the address, the account numbers, whatever they need like that. And think about things like, I think that, I'm not really sure, John, you might know, is your air mileage you can leave to people, apparently. Or if you want, before you die, transfer it to them. You might have a lot of air mileage. That's something somebody could really use. We don't think about it, and then all your mileage is lost. You had 250,000 miles gone. So these are things like, think about those things. There was something I just realized, I was like, oh, I forgot about that. I need to add that to, you might have a safety deposit box. You might have a little safe in your office. What's a combination? Do they know the combination? Somebody need to access that. My brother has a little file. The most important papers are in that because he's a PC consultant. So he's hosting servers for people. He doesn't have a big company, so it's all in him. He's got all the passwords, and so recently he had a little bit of a medical thing. So based on that, I said, I need the info about my website, like where it's hosted. I need all that. Realizing if you go, where's my stuff gonna? Like I don't even know how to tell somebody about it. So he gave me a list of phone numbers and, so think about those kind of things of what information are you holding? Center directors. There's a center director right now I'm working with that really likes to do everything themselves, not delegating much. So I kept saying, but if something happens to you, where are the passwords and the codes and how do we manage the donor base and how do we do these things? We don't know, nobody has that information. So, you know, I keep reminding them, please put it down. Just one sheet of paper is all it really takes, but all the stuff, I'm trying to think of what else I have on there, but it's been useful. And then for me, my mind is free. It's all there. I don't have to worry about, I forgot to tell them about the, you know, everything's there. And my life's pretty simple anyway, but it's nice to keep it simple. But if not, you just write it down.
Yeah, another one that I had forgotten about until you mentioned something yesterday that triggered in my mind is most of us have a child or a parent or a brother or a sister, yet there's people that we would like them to contact if we're ill or dead, and they have no idea how to contact them.
Yep.
They probably know their names.
Yep.
Like my daughter would contact everyone, but she only has maybe 5 or 6 of the emails of 50 people. Like,
That's
I'm
right.
not sure she has your email address as an example.
Yes.
She knows your name and all those
Right.
kind of things, but how to find you would be hard.
So what you do is, in my paperwork is a list. So I've got a list of people. Now I kept it to one page because it can be exhaustive. So I've got my llamas on the top. I've got the main people that need to be notified, emails, phone numbers, and I update it if it changes, but that's pretty much standard. And then the next thing is all the friends based on different areas. And so not everybody's on there, obviously. You put the, you know, but people that are in the network, so they'll tell somebody else. At least I figured it'll get out. But then the other thing I do is the password to my computer, the password to my phone is on the wall in the house where I live, the base, but it's on my documents. So now the documents are in a safe place. They're also given to 2 other people in a safe place. I mean, you know, but that way they can right away get into my phone. And if they want to contact everybody in the phone, everything's there in the phone. Everything's in the computer that they can access. So you could do something like that so that they'll have access to that.
Well, I agree. What I thought about yesterday was that I looked at my list actually, and there's 4,000 contacts in my Google Drive.
Yeah.
So I don't want 4,000 people invited to my cremation.
Right.
You know, there's 50 that I'd like to be invited.
Right. So then put those on a list,
Right.
put the name. But then again, I have a number of contacts like that in my phone that it's, you know, and again, some of them have passed away and some of them, but again, that's up to the people. At least they've got the main people, the word will get out, and then they can choose it at another time if they want to contact some other people, but try to get the main people. And at some point, if you want to go back and clear out some of the list or look at it and think about who's really useful at this point, and then you could add a few more people in or something like that, or tell them, contact this person and they'll get the word out to that whole community. Then you don't have to worry about it. You know, if it's a networking working thing like that, then they'll get the word out. So does that help? Like that is but it's something to think about, you know. And the other thing is, in some ways, after you're gone, does it matter? You're gone. Like in some ways, I feel like it doesn't really, whatever they do, whatever they can do the best, I just tried to make it easy for them. But otherwise, I don't really care. They don't want to contact anybody. It doesn't, I'm gone. It's mainly, is my mind ready? Is my mind ready? And the next shot I get, I want it to be better and brighter and a little bit more evolved, please. Why? For all living beings, for the benefit of all living beings. I want to keep that in my heart. So it doesn't really matter all those little details when you're dead. So let's think about, you know how dramatic this life is, our lives right now? They seem pretty important, right? You got your identity, and I've got my computer, and I've got my phone, and this house, and you got this, and you got, and all these things. And we had this how many countless times before? We don't remember any of it. I don't remember any. It was a huge drama before all my other lives. I don't remember my parents, my children, my siblings, my dearest best friend. You know, I might have had belongings before. I don't know. I could have been a little chick in a little nest and had a couple feathers. I don't remember any of it. You know, do you get little glimmers of something once in a while? You get something that. So how attached do we want to be where we're so mired in this? It's like it's a shooting star, this life, in the grand scheme of things. It is one shooting star. Whoop, that's our lives.
Let's use it to shoot it somewhere.
Let's use it to shoot it right to the pure realm and get, exactly. That's it. But we're so like leaden in this, like this life, my life. It doesn't exist like that. So really, it's nice to step back a little bit and think about it and go, wow, it is just a little Let me take Lizette and then Yenny.
It's not a question, it's a remark.
Yes.
We have in the Maitreya Institute a group of people who can help you with, they are consultants for dying. They are not coordinating, but they made such a list that you can
Copy.
Fill out.
yeah,
Copy.
that you can fill
Yep.
out.
Yeah, and we have now with FPMT, somebody asked me once, can I have your list of, and I took out all the personal things, but I copied it, and it was also for the Sangha, I did for both, where they were using a guideline
Mhm.
of, it's the same thing, it's good that you have that for the sender, because
do
it's
have
more
that.
applicable for the Netherlands. And that way people can just get a guide. I adapted my friend's stuff that she had, and then I adapted it. I kind of went, okay, great, that's a great base, and now I'm gonna put my stuff in. And I also use this as a guideline.
Yeah.
This was helpful. So I just kind of went, oh yeah, that's important to me, or that's not important. In the 5 wishes, if you have a document like that and it already has things written out, I didn't like one, I just crossed it out.
Yeah.
Just didn't want that, so.
Yeah.
So you do the best you can, but it's great that you have
It's
something
very
from the center.
helpful, yeah.
That's great.
You can do also weekend courses on this topic.
That's right. And have people thinking about, like, have you thought about, did you do that? And, the one thing I suddenly forgot was I do have a car in the United States. I use when they're there, and when I'm there, and so suddenly I all of a sudden had this thought one night, and I went, oh, nobody knows where the title of the car is. If they need to sell the car, the title's in a folder, so I added that to the thing, that it's in this folder, in this drawer, because there's just one title of the car that you need, but somebody needs it to sell the car. And I thought, and I know with some people that I know that have passed, we've looked for the title for weeks, looking through their stuff. Have you found it yet? And we can't sell the car until, you can sell, but it's a hassle to sell a car in the States without a title. So things like that, like you don't think about it, and then you go, oh, I forgot to tell them where the extra set of keys for the such and such is. Yeah, very helpful. Lizette.
It was actually exactly what Jenny was saying. I just wanted to say that Venerable Young Tom at the Luna Center, she's very much involved in this, and will be again setting I think a Sunday that she will come to Amsterdam, and people can talk about their list, and so that will be very helpful. And I was thinking, when you're in Lunan, could you please also talk to Venerable Yangtze and share some of your materials, because it's very useful. And she's our point of contact in Maitreya for anything around this.
Absolutely, yeah. Just have her make sure she finds me, and we can certainly meet there. That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to talk with her. Okay, so let me see if there's a lot of more practical things about death, but I wanted to make sure it's mainly about getting through the text, that the horrifying images, it is designed to scare you a little bit, but it's really like, now, don't be distracted, like get to it now. So I just wanted to, in conclusion, because we're out of time, and I did go over these other death things in other previous death course I had done here before. Yeah, I think most of this I talked about. So please, the thing I would encourage as we part is to really think about, and I did give you a couple times when, I'm sorry we didn't do as much meditation as I wanted, is to really, when I asked you, make a plan in your meditation, make a plan. What are you going to do? Like, what realistically are you going to change right now in your life to incorporate a little bit more Dharma practice, but make it realistic so that you do it. And I don't care if it's 10 minutes, I've adjusted, I'm going to add this 10 minutes, but make a plan. So the next month I add a little bit more, or 3 months later, I decide I'm going to read that book and get that book done in this amount of time. We have to do it because the other distractions will take over. They're delectable. We're habituated with them. We do them regularly. So let's really try to do it, because this is something that is definitely going to happen. So I would like to, in conclusion, I'd like to thank Sylvia and everybody with the center, Lizette, that's been so supportive and helpful. Thank you so much for the lovely food, Yenny, thank you. And everyone else who brought the food here in person. May we dedicate whatever positive energy we've created, that we will get our practices adjusted realistically so that there's more time in our lives and we're doing appropriate practice, following a study plan that the center has wonderful broad study options, okay? And really taking the time to make our questions, to try the meditations, to get that internal practice working, okay, that will light up different things in our lives, show us where we need to change the mind, helping us move along that path to full awakening, becoming Buddhas, so we can be of unlimited benefit to all living beings. We're going to do our dedication prayers. Not that one. How we live is how we die. That's the book, Lizette, right? Yes, thank you. And thank you, Sylvie posted the link. Have a look at that book. I have really enjoyed it. I really found some interesting things. No problem, Dragos, just the question's a little bit shorter, but no problem at all. It's great. Not to worry at all. And thank you all for your great questions and things like that. Oops. Feel free if you'd like to join. In dedication, may whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and may it especially cause the essence of perfect, pure Losang Drakpa's teachings to shine forever. Short mandala offering. Thank you very much. Sorry. So where did that go? This ground, anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon, I imagine as a Buddha land and offer it. May all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. Yedam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamira Tayami. I don't know why they load like this.
That's an apple.
Lama asange drugyone droa achikyan madhuva dei sala no arsho. Jangju Senjo Rinpoche, Make Panyam Ge Gyorche, Ge Panyam Pa Me Payam, Gone Gondu Belwarsho. May the precious Supreme Bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. We'll dedicate with emptiness. Due to all the past, present, and future merits collected by me, the numberless Buddhas, and the numberless sentient beings, which are completely empty of existing from their own side, may I, who am completely empty of existing from my own side, achieve the state of full enlightenment, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from its own side to that state, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, by myself alone, who am completely empty of existing from my own side. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri, who knows reality, and just like Samantabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best, while the gone beyond victorious ones at the 3 times, in order to have good conduct. For the Dharma King Tsongkhapa's way of Dharma to flourish, may all signs of obstacles be pacified, and all conducive conditions be complete. Due to the 2 types of merits of the 3 times of myself and others, may the teachings of the victorious one, Losang Drakpa, shine resplendent forever. For the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, we'll do the second one. Savior of the land of snow's teachings and transmigratory beings, who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. We'll do Lama Zopa Rinpoche's swift prayer for swift returning. Oh, I didn't show the other video. Oh, well, another time. Next time.
Sorry, auspicious.
That's right. You have to leave something undone. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings, through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make requests. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings you suddenly departed to peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the 3 jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So I want to thank everyone for joining in person and online. I hope it's been useful. I really hope that you'll be able to find a realistic way to invigorate your practice for the benefit of all living beings. Thank you so much and hope to see you. I've got a couple more classes Tuesday and Wednesday night for now. Maybe you can join our retreat in France, in Leunen, or in Northern England, the end of August, beginning September. And I'll be back in September, October for a month. So hope we can join again as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Venerable Amy. What an amazing weekend.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you, Lizette.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for another very powerful weekend after we had the weekend on karma, and then the teachings which are still going on, and then this weekend about death. Not only about the process and all the theory, but especially about how we can actually use those teachings in our daily lives, how to prepare for that, how to use that as an extra inspiration to diligently and with joyous effort do the practice. So I'm pretty sure that all of us were very much invigorated and encouraged by your teachings this weekend. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
that.
Welcome.
And thank you for leaving a little video so that next time maybe we can continue. And this is just a token of appreciation. Thank you so
Thank
much
you, my
on
dear.
behalf of the center.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
We're looking forward to the retreat in Luna and whatever is still
Yes,
coming
me
up.
too. Yes, wonderful.
And also maybe just a practical addition for those of you who would like to continue a little bit more on death and rebirth. Actually, the Discovering Buddhism module on
Right.
that by Annelies will start, I think, June 16th. So it's
Oh,
coming
great.
up from June, 5 evenings about death and impermanence, I think, or
Death and rebirth. Yeah.
So in case you would like to continue a little bit more about death, and then let's make plans for next year.
But that'll be great with Annalise. It's really helpful. You'll get more details of more, a little bit more zeroed in without as much of just a separate poem like Heartspoon, kind of dredging, bringing up the horror of it. But it's really great. She'll go into more of the details like that. I think it'd be really helpful. So it's a great compliment right now. Yeah.
And so if anyone would like to make an offering, if you would like to use kata and you didn't bring one, there is some in the bag over there. And also maybe it's nice to make a group photo for those of you if that's okay with you.
If you'd like.
Photo.
Sure.
But maybe after the offerings, in case you would like to offer. And I realize I'm actually not on the camera. Thank you for the people online also. Loes? Van de camera.
Dus sta ik voor. Sorry.
So for everyone online, thank you. I didn't realize I was not in the camera. Thank you so much. Hope to see you again.
Opening naar de leraar.
You were on camera.
Dear.
Till the next time.
Oh, great to have you here. Great to have you here.
Yes, you again. Go back to when?
I'm back in September.
That may be tricky. That's why we come off.
That's when, that's when you'll be.
Well,
You should come to the retreat in London or France.
That's not possible.
Northern England would be nice.
I
as well.
haven't been in a while.
Okay.